What if you could walk into any room, speak to any crowd, or send any message, knowing people would listen, trust, and take action? This audiobook reveals the science-backed secrets of ethical influence, helping you captivate, inspire, and lead with undeniable impact. Are you ready? Introduction. Imagine walking into any room, stepping onto any stage, or clicking send on any email, and knowing without a doubt that your words will land with undeniable impact, that people will listen, lean in, and take action, not because you forced them to, but because they wanted to. Imagine being able to command attention without demanding it, to inspire change without manipulation, and to create movements, not just moments. This isn't some rare skill reserved for politicians, celebrities, or TED Talk speakers. It's a superpower you already have. It just needs to be unlocked, refined, and wielded the right way. Welcome to Unstoppable Influence: How to Win Over Any Audience. This book isn't just about persuasion techniques or communication hacks. It's about mastering the kind of influence that creates trust, impact, and lasting change. It's about tapping into the psychology of why people say yes, understanding the science of human behavior, and learning how to stand out, be remembered, and make a difference. Whether you're speaking on a stage, writing an email, leading a team, or even just having a one-on-one conversation. Why influence matters, now more than ever. We live in an era where attention is currency. Every second, we're bombarded with thousands of messages, ads, posts, videos, emails, pitches, each fighting for a tiny sliver of mental space. The average person sees between 6,000 and 10,000 ads every single day. The rise of social media has made everyone a broadcaster. But with so much noise, real influence isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who speaks in a way that truly resonates. Research in psychology shows that human attention spans have dropped from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to just 8.25 seconds today. That's shorter than a goldfish's. That means if you don't capture attention quickly and build trust immediately, you're lost in the noise. And trust? That's even harder to earn, especially when 67% of people say they no longer trust traditional advertising or mass messaging. But here's the good news. Real influence isn't about tricks or gimmicks. It's about connection, authenticity, and understanding the psychology of how people think, decide, and act. That's what we're diving into. Who this book is. For this book is for anyone who wants to lead, inspire, and make an impact. Whether you are a leader who needs to rally people around a vision, entrepreneur who wants to stand out in a crowded marketplace, speaker or communicator who wants to captivate audiences and leave them changed, professional who wants to be more persuasive in meetings, negotiations, or sales, everyday person who wants better conversations, stronger relationships, and the ability to move people in a way that feels effortless. Influence isn't just for certain people. It's a skill. A learnable, science-backed skill that anyone can develop and master. The difference between manipulation and genuine influence. Let's get one thing straight. Influence is not manipulation. Too often people assume that influence is about tricking people, bending them to your will, or forcing them into decisions they don't want to make. That's manipulation, and it's rooted in deceit, pressure, and short-term thinking. Real influence is different. It's about guiding people to decisions that are in their best interest, not through pressure, but through understanding, not through deception, but through clarity, value, and connection. Research from Dr. Robert Cialdini, a world expert on persuasion, shows that ethical influence is built on trust, credibility, and genuine connection, not force or coercion. If you use influence the wrong way, you might win in the short term, but you'll burn bridges, destroy credibility, and lose trust forever. If you use it the right way, people will follow you not because they have to, but because they believe in you. That's the kind of influence that lasts. How to use influence ethically and effectively. So how do you master ethical, effective, and lasting influence? That's what this book is going to teach you, step by step. You'll learn the psychological triggers that make people say yes and how to use them authentically. How to craft messages that captivate and inspire without feeling pushy or salesy. How to read and adapt to any audience, whether it's one person or a stadium full of people. How to become the go-to authority people trust and listen to. How to avoid common influence mistakes that kill credibility and repel audiences. These aren't just theories. Everything in this book is backed by psychological research, neuroscience, and real-world application, proven methods used by some of the world's best speakers, leaders, and change-makers. But more than that, this book is practical. Influence isn't just something you read about, it's something you apply. That's why each chapter will give you clear, actionable steps to use right away. Whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey, you'll walk away with new insights, strategies, and tools to make an impact starting today. What's next, and why you should keep listening? Now that you know why influence matters and how it's different from manipulation, the real journey begins. In the next chapter, we're going to break down the power of influence, what it is, how it works, and how the most persuasive people in the world use it effortlessly. You'll discover the core psychological principles that drive human decision-making, why some people seem to have natural charisma, and how you can develop it too. The number one mistake that kills your influence before you even start. How to capture attention immediately, whether you're speaking, writing, or leading. If you've ever felt like your voice wasn't heard, your ideas weren't noticed, or your messages didn't land, this book will change that. By the end of this journey, you won't just be more influential, you'll be unstoppable. So let's dive in. Chapter 1 starts now. Chapter 1. Influence is everywhere. Even when you don't see it, imagine walking into a room filled with people. Some are engaged in lively conversation, others are quietly observing, and a few command attention effortlessly, as if they hold an invisible magnet, pulling everyone toward them. Now ask yourself, why is it that certain people can walk into any setting and instantly shift the energy in their favor? Why do some individuals have the uncanny ability to persuade, inspire, and lead, while others struggle to make their voices heard? The answer lies in one of the most underestimated, yet profoundly powerful forces in human interaction: influence. You might not realize it, but influence governs nearly every decision you make, from the food you eat to the career you choose. It dictates the trends that shape culture, the brands that dominate industries, and the leaders we choose to follow. Influence is woven so deeply into the fabric of society that it often operates unnoticed, yet it remains the driving force behind persuasion, leadership, and success. The clothes you wear, the books you read, the movies you watch, and even the opinions you hold. Each of these choices has likely been shaped, consciously or unconsciously, by someone else's influence. The real question isn't whether influence exists, but rather, are you aware of it? And more importantly, are you in control of it? Too often, people associate influence with manipulation, assuming it's a tactic reserved for politicians, marketers, and charismatic speakers. But influence is not about deception or coercion. It is about understanding human nature, forming connections, and effectively communicating ideas in ways that resonate. Whether you realize it or not, you are already influencing people every single day. The way you speak, the choices you make, the way you respond to others. All of these interactions create a ripple effect, shaping how people perceive and respond to you. The real challenge isn't whether you have influence, it's whether you're using it intentionally and effectively. Consider the last time you made a major life decision. Maybe you took a new job, started a business, moved to a new city, or made a significant purchase. If you trace the thought process leading up to that choice, you'll likely find that someone influenced you. Perhaps a mentor, a friend, a family member, or even a well-crafted advertisement. Influence is the silent architect of decision-making, often working behind the scenes in ways we don't fully recognize. And the better you understand it, the more control you have over your own life, as well as the ability to shape the world around you. Why influence matters, now more than ever. We live in an age of overwhelming information. Every day we are bombarded with thousands of messages, from news headlines to social media posts, from advertisements to personal conversations. In a world this noisy, the ability to influence effectively isn't just a skill, it's a necessity. Those who fail to develop influence find themselves drowned out, struggling to get their message across, unable to inspire action or create meaningful change. Meanwhile, those who master influence rise above the chaos. They lead, they persuade, and they shape the conversations that define culture and progress. Think about the leaders, entrepreneurs, and change-makers who have shaped history. They weren't necessarily the smartest, wealthiest, or most powerful people in their fields. What set them apart was their ability to influence. Whether it was Steve Jobs revolutionizing technology, Martin Luther King Jr. igniting a movement, or Oprah Winfrey building an empire of trust. Their success wasn't just about their ideas. It was about their ability to get others to believe in those ideas. Influence, at its core, is about winning hearts and minds, not through force, but through connection and conviction. In today's world, influence is more democratized than ever. With the rise of digital platforms, anyone with a smartphone and a message has the potential to reach millions. Yet, despite this opportunity, most people fail to build real influence because they misunderstand what it truly takes. Influence isn't about talking louder or gaining more followers. It's about resonating deeply, building trust, and creating a compelling reason for people to listen and take action. Without influence, your ideas remain unheard, your goals unmet, and your potential unrealized. The difference between influence and manipulation. Before we go any further, let's get one thing straight. Influence is not manipulation. While both involve persuasion, they are fundamentally different in intent and execution. Manipulation is self-serving and deceptive, using tactics designed to control or pressure others for personal gain, often at their expense. Influence, on the other hand, is about mutual benefit and authentic connection. It's about guiding people toward decisions that are in their best interest, as well as yours. Consider a great teacher. A manipulative teacher forces students to follow instructions out of fear, using threats and coercion to ensure compliance. An influential teacher, on the other hand, inspires students to learn, think critically, and embrace knowledge. The outcome is the same. Students follow the teacher's guidance, but the process is entirely different. One relies on pressure, the other on passion. One erodes trust, the other builds it. True influence is about empowerment, not exploitation. To become truly influential, you must operate from a place of authenticity and integrity. People are incredibly perceptive, and they can sense when someone is being insincere or manipulative. Influence that is built on deceit is always temporary. It may work in the short term, but eventually it crumbles. Genuine influence, however, stands the test of time. It creates loyalty, trust, and long-term impact, the three pillars of influence: trust, connection, and persuasion. Every truly influential person, from world leaders to successful entrepreneurs, operates on three foundational pillars. These aren't tricks or gimmicks. They are universal principles that define how influence is built and sustained over time. 1. Trust. Influence starts with credibility. If people don't trust you, they won't listen to you. Trust is not demanded. It's earned through consistency, honesty, and reliability. The most influential people are those who keep their word, demonstrate competence, and genuinely care about others. 2. Connection. Influence isn't about you, it's about them. People follow those they relate to, those who understand them on a deep level. The key to influence is listening more than speaking, understanding people's needs, fears, and desires, and meeting them where they are. 3. Persuasion. Once trust and connection are established, persuasion becomes effortless. The most effective influencers don't force their ideas. They position them in ways that align with people's existing beliefs and emotions. They frame their message in a way that makes people naturally want to say yes. Mastering these three elements transforms the way you communicate, lead, and interact with the world. Whether in business, relationships, or personal development, the ability to influence gives you a profound advantage. Right now, you are already influencing people in ways you may not even realize. Every time you give advice, recommend a product, tell a story, or even react to a situation, you are shaping the thoughts and actions of those around you. But are you doing it effectively? Are you aware of the power you hold? And most importantly, are you using that power intentionally and ethically? In the next, we'll dive deep into the psychology of influence, why people say yes, how decisions are made, and the hidden forces that shape human behavior. But for now, I want you to reflect on this. Influence is shaping your life every day. Are you the one controlling it, or is someone else controlling it for you? Chapter 2. The psychology behind influence. Why people say yes. Influence isn't magic, though to the untrained eye, it can seem that way. It's not luck either, nor is it something reserved only for those who are naturally charming or charismatic. Influence is a science, a carefully studied, deeply understood, and entirely learnable skill. It operates on the principles of human psychology, tapping into the way people think, feel, and make decisions. Once you understand these principles, you'll begin to see influence everywhere. You'll notice the patterns in how people respond, the subtle ways persuasion shapes everyday life, and most importantly, the techniques that allow you to become a powerful force of influence in any situation. To truly master influence, you must first understand how people make decisions. Most people like to believe they are rational creatures, carefully weighing pros and cons before coming to a conclusion. But in reality, decision-making is largely emotional, shaped by subconscious triggers, past experiences, and ingrained psychological tendencies. The mind is constantly looking for shortcuts, quick ways to process information and arrive at conclusions without wasting unnecessary energy. These shortcuts, known as cognitive biases, are the hidden forces that shape our behavior. They are the reason people instinctively trust certain brands, feel compelled to return favors, or become attached to ideas even when faced with contradicting evidence. The power of first impressions. How people judge you in seconds. Before you even say a word, people are already forming an impression of you. Studies show that within milliseconds of meeting someone, the brain makes snap judgments about their trustworthiness, competence, and likability. While this might seem unfair, it's an evolutionary survival mechanism. Our ancestors needed to assess threats quickly, and this instinct remains deeply ingrained in us today. Once a first impression is made, it becomes incredibly difficult to change. Psychologists call this the primacy effect, which suggests that the initial information people receive about you carries the most weight. If someone perceives you as confident, competent, and warm from the start, they will filter all future interactions through that lens. Conversely, if you come across as uncertain, disengaged, or insincere, that perception will be hard to shake, no matter how much you try to correct it later. This is why influential people understand the power of presence. They walk into a room with a sense of certainty, not arrogance, but quiet confidence. They make eye contact, stand tall, and exude warmth. They know that influence doesn't begin with what they say, but how they make people feel in those first crucial moments. The rule of reciprocity. Why people feel obligated to give back. Have you ever received a free sample at a store and felt an almost subconscious urge to buy the product? Or has someone done you a small favor, making you feel compelled to return it, even if they never asked? This is the rule of reciprocity, one of the most powerful principles of influence. Human beings are wired to repay kindness with kindness. When someone gives us something, whether it's a gift, a compliment, or an act of generosity, we feel a deep-seated obligation to reciprocate. This principle is so deeply ingrained that it operates even when we don't consciously realize it. Smart influencers use reciprocity not as a trick, but as a way to build goodwill and trust. They give first, knowing that generosity creates a cycle of positive interaction. They offer value without expecting an immediate return, understanding that over time, people will naturally want to reciprocate. This is why the most influential leaders, business people, and communicators are also the most generous givers, whether it's knowledge, support, or time. They know that influence isn't about taking. It's about creating relationships where giving and receiving happen naturally. Social proof. Why people follow the crowd. Imagine walking down the street and seeing two coffee shops side by side, one bustling with customers, the other nearly empty. Even if you know nothing about either shop, which one are you more likely to trust? If you're like most people, you'll assume the busy shop is better. This is the power of social proof, our tendency to look to others for guidance, especially when we're uncertain. Social proof is why reviews, testimonials, and popularity indicators, such as follower counts or bestseller labels, are so effective. People don't just listen to what you say about yourself. They look for signals that others trust and validate you. This is why some of the most influential figures in any industry leverage social proof to amplify their credibility. They showcase client success stories, highlight endorsements, and demonstrate that others have already put their trust in them. But social proof isn't just about business. It's everywhere. It explains why people mimic behaviors in social settings, why trends spread, and why certain ideas gain momentum while others fade into obscurity. Those who understand social proof don't just follow trends, they create them. They know how to position themselves, their ideas, and their work in ways that naturally attract attention and credibility. Scarcity, the psychological trigger that drives action. Nothing makes people want something more than the fear of losing it. Scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological motivators because it taps into our deep-rooted fear of missing out. When something is perceived as rare, exclusive, or limited, its value skyrockets. Marketers use scarcity all the time. Flash sales, only a few left notifications, and exclusive VIP access all trigger urgency. But scarcity isn't just a marketing trick. It's a fundamental aspect of human nature. People don't just want what's available. They want what's hard to get. This principle applies to influence as well. When you position your time, expertise, or opportunities as valuable and limited, people are more eager to engage. True influencers don't chase. They attract by making themselves and their offerings something people don't want to miss out on. Commitment and consistency. Why people stick to their decisions. Once people make a public commitment to something, they feel an internal need to remain consistent with that commitment. This is why smart influencers don't just try to convince people outright. They get them to take a small first step. For example, if you want someone to embrace a new idea, you don't start by demanding full agreement. Instead, you start with something small, something they can easily say yes to. That initial commitment, no matter how minor, increases the likelihood that they will continue in that direction. This is why some of the most effective leaders and persuaders focus on small wins. They understand that once people take the first step, whether it's signing up for a free trial, attending an event, or agreeing with a single point in a conversation, they are far more likely to follow through. Understanding these principles gives you an unfair advantage. Now that you understand some of the key psychological forces behind influence, you are already ahead of most people. These principles, first impressions, reciprocity, social proof, scarcity, and commitment, aren't just theories. They are the mechanisms that drive human behavior, whether in business, relationships, or leadership. The difference between those who struggle to be heard and those who effortlessly command attention isn't talent. It's understanding how influence works and using it intentionally. Chapter 3. The Hidden Triggers of Influence. How to make people listen, trust, and act. Influence is often mistaken for sheer assertiveness, an innate gift of persuasion, or an exclusive trait possessed only by the naturally charismatic. But real influence is far more strategic, more deeply rooted in psychology, and, most importantly, more accessible to anyone willing to understand the forces that govern human behavior. What separates those who effortlessly captivate audiences from those who struggle to be heard is not luck or raw talent, but rather their ability to activate certain psychological triggers in the minds of others. These hidden triggers dictate why people trust, why they follow, and why they make decisions, even when they believe they are doing so consciously. Those who master these triggers don't just get attention. They create lasting impact, shape perceptions, and inspire action without ever seeming forceful or overbearing. To understand influence at its core, one must first recognize that people are not driven purely by logic or rational thought. Most decisions, whether personal, professional, or societal, are made emotionally first and then later justified with reasoning. The subconscious mind is a powerful force, constantly assessing situations, scanning for cues, and responding to hidden patterns that guide decision-making. These cognitive shortcuts have been studied extensively in psychology, and they reveal an undeniable truth. Influence is not about what you say. It's about how you make people feel and how you align your message with their innate psychological tendencies. The authority effect. How perceived expertise shapes influence. Imagine walking into a doctor's office for the first time. Even before they speak, you trust their expertise, not because of anything they've personally done for you, but because of what they represent. A person with years of education, training, and experience. That trust is automatic, not because you have verified their credentials yourself, but because society has conditioned you to respect the title and the white coat. This is the authority effect, one of the most powerful and immediate triggers of influence. People naturally gravitate toward those who exude knowledge, competence, and leadership. Throughout history, human survival depended on following those who displayed expertise, whether it was a tribal elder who knew where to find water, a warrior who could protect the group, or a healer who understood the power of plants. This evolutionary instinct still exists today, and those who learn to position themselves as authorities command immediate attention and trust. However, authority is not something you demand. It is something you establish through presence, expertise, and consistency. Building perceived authority requires a multi-layered approach. First, you must demonstrate deep knowledge in your field, not just by claiming expertise, but by sharing insights that prove your mastery. Those who consistently offer valuable information, original perspectives, and well-reasoned arguments naturally rise above the noise. Second, confidence plays a critical role in authority. People trust those who speak with certainty, stand by their beliefs, and project a sense of control over their domain. This is why hesitation, uncertainty, or a lack of conviction can immediately weaken your influence. Finally, presentation matters. Everything from your tone, posture, and mannerisms to the way you dress and carry yourself can either enhance or diminish your perceived authority. The most influential people in any industry are rarely the most knowledgeable. They are the ones who know how to signal their authority effectively. The familiarity bias. Why repetition builds trust. Consider the last time you chose between two competing brands, books or services. If one of them seemed more familiar, even if you couldn't pinpoint why, you likely felt more comfortable choosing it. This is not coincidence. It is the familiarity bias at work. People instinctively trust what feels familiar because the brain perceives it as safe. In a world filled with constant choices and potential risks, familiarity acts as a mental shortcut, guiding decisions with minimal effort. This principle explains why some of the most influential brands and individuals achieve success, not through radical uniqueness, but through consistent exposure. The more people see your name, hear your message, or encounter your ideas, the more comfortable they become with you. This is why repetition is essential in influence. The first time someone hears an idea, they might ignore it. The second time, they recognize it. By the third or fourth exposure, they begin to accept it as truth. Savvy influencers understand this and use it to their advantage, ensuring that their message is seen and heard repeatedly across different platforms, conversations, and interactions. To harness the power of familiarity, one must be relentless in showing up. This doesn't mean repeating the exact same message verbatim, but rather reinforcing key ideas, themes, and narratives in a way that gradually solidifies recognition and trust. Those who are inconsistent, who change their messaging frequently, disappear for long periods, or fail to reinforce their brand, lose the opportunity to build the deep familiarity that breeds influence. Emotional resonance. Why logic alone doesn't persuade. One of the most common mistakes people make when trying to influence others is relying too heavily on logic and facts. While data and reasoning are important, they do not drive decisions on their own. Studies have repeatedly shown that people make choices based on emotion first and then justify them with logic later. This is why some of the most influential messages in history, whether in marketing, leadership, or personal persuasion, are built around stories, emotions, and deeply human connections. Think about some of the most memorable speeches, advertisements, or political campaigns. They do not just present facts, they evoke feelings. They tap into desires, fears, aspirations, and memories that resonate on a deeply personal level. Emotion creates connection, and connection builds influence. When people feel something, they remember it. When they remember it, they act on it. To maximize emotional resonance, one must focus on storytelling, sensory-rich language, and core human emotions. Instead of simply stating that a product is beneficial, great influencers paint a picture of how it will change someone's life. Instead of just presenting a concept, they craft narratives that transport people into a world where that idea has real, tangible impact. When emotion is engaged, influence becomes effortless, because the message is not just heard, it is felt. Why these triggers matter more than anything else. Understanding these psychological triggers, authority, familiarity, and emotional resonance, is the key to unlocking unparalleled influence. These are not just theories. They are forces that shape every interaction, every decision, and every perception in the world around us. Those who master them wield influence naturally, not through force, manipulation, or coercion, but by aligning their presence, messaging, and delivery with the way human minds are already wired to respond. This is the difference between those who struggle to get attention and those who command it effortlessly. Those who try to push their ideas, products, or perspectives often face resistance, but those who pull people in through established authority, repeated familiarity, and deep emotional connection never have to force influence. It happens automatically. Chapter 4. The Science of First Impressions. Why Influence Begins. Before you speak, influence doesn't begin the moment you start speaking. It doesn't start when you present your ideas, share your expertise, or attempt to persuade someone. Influence starts before any of that. Before a single word leaves your mouth, before the handshake, before the email is opened, before your message is even considered. In fact, most people decide how much they will trust, believe, or follow you within seconds of encountering you. This is the undeniable power of first impressions, and those who understand its significance control the way they are perceived from the very first moment. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon extensively, and the results are staggering. Within the first few moments of meeting someone, people make snap judgments about your intelligence, competence, confidence, and trustworthiness. These judgments happen automatically, beneath the level of conscious thought. Even more fascinating, these first impressions are shockingly difficult to change. Once people form an initial perception of you, their minds instinctively filter future interactions through that lens. If they decide you are competent, they will unconsciously look for evidence that confirms that belief. If they decide you lack authority, they will instinctively find reasons to dismiss you, even if you later present compelling arguments. This is why influence is not just about what you say. It's about how you are perceived before you say it. It is about controlling the unspoken signals that shape people's judgments before logic even enters the equation. Those who master this skill never struggle to gain attention, respect, or trust, because they have already positioned themselves as people worth listening to before the conversation even begins. The silent language of influence: how nonverbal cues shape perception. While words can be powerful, studies show that up to 93% of communication is nonverbal. This means that before you even articulate an argument, people have already decided how much they trust you, based on your body language, facial expressions, posture, eye contact, and even the way you carry yourself. These unspoken signals send messages that the subconscious mind interprets instantly, influencing whether people view you as confident, weak, engaging, or forgettable. One of the most critical factors in first impressions is body posture. People who stand tall, maintain an open stance, and take up space project confidence and authority, while those who shrink themselves, cross their arms, or avoid eye contact signal insecurity and hesitation. This is why powerful speakers, leaders, and influencers often command a room before they even begin speaking. They don't just talk like influential people, they look and move like them. Facial expressions also play a crucial role in perception. A slight smile, a steady gaze, and an engaged expression signal warmth and credibility, while nervous fidgeting, darting eyes, or an overly serious demeanor can create a sense of unease. People instinctively mirror the emotions of those around them, so if you project confidence and openness, your audience will feel more at ease, making them more receptive to your message. The voice, too, is a key component of influence. The way you speak matters as much as what you say. Studies show that people who speak with a steady, controlled tone are perceived as more authoritative, while those who use too many filler words, speak too quickly, or have uncertain vocal inflections weaken their credibility. Great influencers master the rhythm of speech, using pauses for emphasis, lowering their tone for authority, and varying their pitch to maintain engagement. Mastering these nonverbal elements ensures that before you even begin persuading, people are already predisposed to trust and respect you. This is why two people can deliver the exact same message, yet one will be instantly compelling, while the other will be ignored. The difference is not the content, it is the presence, the halo effect, how one positive trait creates instant influence. One of the most fascinating psychological phenomena in influence is the halo effect, a cognitive bias where people assume that if someone has one impressive trait, they must also possess other positive qualities. This means that if you appear confident, successful, or knowledgeable in one area, people will instinctively assume you are competent in other areas as well. For example, studies show that people who are well-dressed and well-groomed are often perceived as more intelligent, capable, and trustworthy, even when no evidence supports that assumption. Similarly, someone with a strong, confident presence is often assumed to be an expert even before they have demonstrated their expertise. This effect explains why perception often matters more than reality when it comes to influence. Those who understand the halo effect use it to their advantage by carefully curating their personal brand. They ensure that every detail, how they dress, how they speak, how they introduce themselves, aligns with the image they want to project. They understand that small things, such as wearing polished shoes, speaking with confidence, or maintaining strong posture, create a ripple effect that amplifies their influence far beyond the initial impression. This is why powerful leaders, successful entrepreneurs, and world-class influencers always seem to exude credibility even before they prove themselves. They design their presence in a way that ensures people instinctively associate them with success and authority, making persuasion easier from the very start. How to take control of your first impression and instantly boost your influence. Since first impressions are so powerful and difficult to change, the best strategy is to ensure that the very first time someone encounters you, they see you as credible, competent, and worth listening to. Here's how you can immediately enhance your influence in any setting. Master your appearance. Like it or not, people judge books by their covers. Dressing well, maintaining good grooming, and presenting yourself in a polished manner instantly triggers the halo effect, making people more likely to trust you. Perfect your posture and body language. Stand tall, make deliberate movements, and avoid nervous gestures. Your physical presence should exude confidence before you even begin speaking. Control your tone of voice. Speak clearly, confidently, and with controlled pacing. Avoid filler words and hesitant speech patterns that weaken your credibility. Be intentional about your energy. People are drawn to those who exude passion, warmth, and certainty. If you seem genuinely engaged in what you're saying, others will be more inclined to follow your lead. Reinforce familiarity. If possible, ensure that people have seen or heard of you before meeting you. Whether it's through social media, networking, or content creation, pre-exposure increases the likelihood that they will view you as credible and influential. These strategies ensure that before you even begin persuading, people are already open to your influence. They will listen more attentively, trust you more easily, and follow your lead with less resistance. Why first impressions are the foundation of unstoppable influence. The most powerful influencers in the world understand that influence begins long before the conversation starts. They know that before they present a single argument, share an idea, or ask for action, people have already decided whether or not they will listen. Those who control this perception control the outcome. This is why influence is not just about what you know, it's about how you are perceived from the very first interaction. The world's greatest communicators, leaders, and changemakers don't just persuade with words, they shape the unspoken judgments that dictate whether people will accept their message in the first place. Chapter 5. The Trust Equation. How to build unshakable credibility and authority. Influence without trust is an illusion. You can have the most compelling message, the most polished delivery, and the most strategic approach, but if people don't trust you, they won't follow you. Trust is the foundation upon which all influence is built, and without it, even the most persuasive words will fall flat. The challenge, however, is that trust is not given freely. It must be earned. And in a world where skepticism is high, where people are constantly bombarded with conflicting messages, and where past experiences have made many wary of manipulation, earning that trust requires a deliberate and strategic approach. Trust is not a singular concept. It is a formula, an equation made up of several critical components. When you understand this equation and apply it consistently, you establish credibility that is unshakable. People will not only believe in you, but they will also feel safe in following your lead. This is the difference between someone who merely captures attention and someone who commands deep loyalty. The trust equation, the 4 pillars that make or break your influence. Psychologists and behavioral experts have long studied the mechanics of trust, and what they have found is that it doesn't emerge randomly. It is built upon 4 key elements: competence, reliability, authenticity, and empathy. Together, these form what we call the trust equation, the formula that determines whether people will listen to you, believe in you, and allow you to influence their decisions. 1. Competence. Do you know what you're talking about? The first pillar of trust is competence. If people don't believe you have the knowledge, experience, or skills to back up what you're saying, they will dismiss you, no matter how likable or persuasive you may be. Competence is about expertise, but it is also about the ability to demonstrate that expertise in a way that resonates. Simply claiming to be an expert is not enough. People trust those who provide valuable insights, practical solutions, and a track record of success. Think about it. When you seek advice, do you trust the person who says, "Trust me, I know what I'm talking about," or the person who demonstrates their expertise by sharing specific, actionable knowledge? The latter will always win. One of the best ways to establish competence is through thought leadership. Sharing high-quality insights, teaching others, and proving that you understand the subject at a deep level makes people more willing to trust your perspective. But competence is not just about knowledge. It's about your ability to articulate that knowledge clearly and persuasively. 2. Reliability. Do you follow through on your promises? The second pillar of trust is reliability. People don't just trust those who are competent. They trust those who are consistent. Inconsistency breeds doubt. If your words and actions don't align, if you frequently change your stance, or if you fail to follow through on your commitments, people will hesitate to believe in you. Reliability is built over time. It is the result of showing up consistently, delivering on promises, and being dependable even in small matters. Think about the people you trust most in your own life. They are likely individuals who have demonstrated time and time again that their word means something. This is why small commitments matter. If you say you will do something and don't, it damages trust, even if the issue seems minor. Influential people ensure that they are perceived as dependable. They avoid making commitments they can't keep, and when they do make a promise, they over-deliver rather than under-deliver. This builds a reputation of credibility, making people more willing to follow their lead. 3. Authenticity. Are you real, or are you just performing? In a world filled with staged personas, scripted interactions, and polished facades, authenticity stands out like a beacon. People have an innate ability to sense when someone is being fake, and when they do, trust erodes instantly. Authenticity is about alignment between your words, actions, and values. It means that who you present yourself as publicly is consistent with who you are privately. When people sense that you are being real, that you are not trying to manipulate them, that you are not putting on an act, they will naturally feel more comfortable trusting you. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. In fact, sometimes showing your imperfections can actually build trust faster than trying to appear flawless. Why? Because perfection feels artificial, while vulnerability feels genuine. People are more likely to trust those who are willing to admit their mistakes, share their struggles, and be transparent about their journey. 4. Empathy. Do you truly understand and care about others? The final pillar of the trust equation is empathy, the ability to genuinely understand, connect with, and care about others. Influence is not about pushing your agenda onto people. It is about meeting them where they are, understanding their needs, and making them feel heard. People trust those who make them feel understood. This is why some of the most powerful communicators in history have been great listeners before they were great speakers. They didn't just talk at people. They engaged with them, acknowledged their emotions, and validated their concerns. To build trust through empathy, you must approach every interaction with the mindset of, how can I serve, help, or uplift this person? When people sense that you are not just trying to persuade them for your own benefit, but that you genuinely care about their well-being, their defenses lower, and they become far more receptive to your influence. Why trust is the ultimate influence multiplier. The trust equation is not just a theory. It is a framework for creating lasting influence. The most powerful influencers in the world, whether in business, leadership, or personal relationships, understand that influence is not about pressure or persuasion alone. It is about building credibility so strong that people trust your voice without hesitation. When you combine competence, reliability, authenticity, and empathy, you create a force of influence that is nearly impossible to break. People won't just listen to you. They will seek out your guidance, follow your recommendations, and feel confident in aligning themselves with you. This is the difference between those who have short-term influence and those who have lifelong impact. The former may be able to momentarily grab attention, but the latter builds deep-rooted trust that lasts for years. How to apply the trust equation in every area of your life. Building unshakable trust isn't just for business leaders or public figures. It is essential in every area of life. Whether you want to be a respected leader, a successful entrepreneur, a persuasive speaker, or a trusted friend, the principles remain the same. Demonstrate your expertise. Don't just claim authority. Prove it by offering genuine value. Be consistent and reliable. Your actions should align with your words at all times. Show up as your true self. People trust those who are real, not those who try too hard to impress. Make people feel understood. Listen more than you speak, and always consider the needs of those you seek to influence. When you master these elements, you no longer have to chase influence. It will come naturally to you. People will trust you instinctively, making persuasion, leadership, and connection effortless. Chapter 7. The Art of Believability. How to make people trust. Every word you say, influence, is not just about getting people to hear you. It's about making them believe you. There is a stark difference between being listened to and being truly trusted. Anyone can talk, but only a select few can speak in a way that makes people lean in, absorb every word, and instinctively feel that what's being said is true. This ability is not accidental. It is not based on charisma alone, nor is it dependent on how loud or confident someone appears to be. It is rooted in a precise combination of psychology, communication strategy, and human connection. The most influential people in the world, leaders, speakers, negotiators, and changemakers, have mastered the art of believability. They know how to structure their words, present their ideas, and conduct themselves in a way that removes doubt and replaces it with certainty. When people believe in you, they don't just listen, they act. They follow, support, and advocate on your behalf. They trust your guidance and instinctively align with your perspective. This is why believability is one of the most powerful levers of influence, and once you master it, your ability to persuade, inspire, and lead will transform. The science behind why people believe certain voices over others. Believability is not random. It is built upon a psychological foundation that determines who we instinctively trust and who we dismiss. While people like to think of themselves as rational decision makers, the truth is that most belief is based on subconscious signals, subtle cues that the brain processes before logic even comes into play. When you understand these signals, you can intentionally embed them into the way you communicate, making people trust your words on a deeper, almost automatic level. There are three core components that drive believability. 1. Certainty. The mind trusts. What feels unquestionably solid people are naturally drawn to certainty. Uncertainty feels unstable, unreliable, and unconvincing, while certainty feels like a foundation that can be relied upon. This is why the most believable people are those who speak with conviction, move with confidence, and structure their words in a way that leaves no room for hesitation. Certainty is not about arrogance. It is not about speaking louder or asserting dominance. It is about eliminating doubt from your delivery. People can sense when you are unsure, hesitant, or wavering. Even the smallest verbal cues, phrases like, "I think," "maybe," "it might work," introduce uncertainty and weaken trust. The most persuasive individuals frame their words with absolute clarity. Instead of saying, "I think this could be a good idea," they say, "This is the best approach for achieving the result we need." Instead of saying, "Maybe we should try this," they say, "This is what we're going to do, and here's why it will work." The difference is subtle but profoundly powerful. 2. Familiarity. The mind trusts what feels known and recognizable. The human brain is wired to resist the unfamiliar. What feels foreign or new is automatically met with skepticism, while what feels familiar and recognizable is perceived as safe and trustworthy. This is why great influencers and communicators use storytelling, relatable examples, and established patterns in their speech. When you introduce a new idea, you must anchor it to something people already understand. If you present a completely unfamiliar concept, people's instinct is to resist it. But if you frame that same idea in a way that connects to their existing knowledge, they will be far more willing to accept it. For example, if you're introducing a complex concept in business, instead of explaining it in abstract terms, you might compare it to something widely understood: sports strategy, human psychology, or a common life experience. This makes the information feel familiar, reducing resistance and increasing believability. 3. Credibility. The mind trusts. What comes from a source, it respects. People don't just believe what is said, they believe who is saying it. This is why credibility is a core component of believability. If people perceive you as qualified, knowledgeable, and experienced, they will naturally trust your words. But if they sense a lack of credibility, even the most well-structured argument will fall flat. Credibility is not built by claiming authority. It is built by demonstrating it. The strongest influencers don't say, "Trust me, I know what I'm talking about." Instead, they prove their knowledge through depth, insight, and results. They share stories of experience, provide evidence, and communicate in a way that exudes expertise without forcing it. If you want people to instinctively trust you, focus on showing rather than telling. Instead of saying, "I'm an expert in this field," say, "Here's what I've learned after working in this field for over a decade." Instead of saying, "This strategy is the best," say, "We tested multiple approaches, and this strategy produced a 200% increase in results." How to structure your words for maximum believability. Believability is not just about what you say. It is about how you say it. The structure, delivery, and framing of your words determine whether people will feel immediate trust or lingering skepticism. Here are the most powerful techniques for making every word you say feel undeniably true. State your conclusion. First, then prove it. Instead of building up to your main point, state it up front with confidence, then provide supporting evidence. This structure creates an instant sense of certainty, making your words more convincing. Use data and evidence strategically. People believe in numbers and proof, but they don't connect with dry statistics. Combine factual evidence with compelling storytelling to create credibility without losing emotional engagement. Frame your words in the active voice. Passive voice sounds weak and uncertain. Instead of saying, "Mistakes were made," say, "We made a mistake, and here's how we fixed it." The active voice makes you sound more accountable, direct, and trustworthy. Remove weakening language. Words like kind of, sort of, maybe, or I think introduce doubt. Replace them with strong, definitive language that reinforces confidence. Pause for emphasis. People process information more deeply when there are moments of intentional silence. A well-placed pause makes a statement feel more profound, allowing the listener to absorb and believe it fully. Why believability is the key to lasting influence. When people believe you, you don't have to work as hard to persuade them. Your words carry weight, your opinions hold influence, and your presence commands respect. Believability is the foundation upon which all enduring influence is built. Without it, even the most persuasive tactics will fail. By mastering the psychology of belief, structuring your words with certainty and credibility, and removing the subtle elements that create doubt, you can make people trust every word you say, not because they are being convinced, but because they genuinely feel that what you're saying is true. Chapter 8. The Authority Effect. How to make people see you as the go-to voice in any field. Believability is powerful, but authority is transformational. When people believe you, they trust your words. But when they see you as an authority, they seek out your opinion before making decisions. They don't just listen when you speak. They come to you before anyone else. Authority is the difference between being someone people occasionally hear and being the first and final voice they turn to. Most people assume authority is about titles, credentials, or years of experience, but that's only part of the equation. The deepest, most unshakable authority comes from a combination of perception, communication, and positioning. The world's most influential figures, from industry leaders to top speakers and thought pioneers, don't just rely on their expertise. They strategically shape the way people perceive them, making it clear that their voice carries weight, their insights are valuable, and their presence is indispensable. Authority is not given, it is built. And if you understand how to establish yourself as the trusted voice in any space, you will never struggle to gain attention, persuade an audience, or turn influence into tangible impact. Why authority is the fastest path to influence. Authority changes the way people react to your words. When you lack authority, your ideas are met with skepticism. People question your experience, hesitate to take action, and require excessive convincing. But when you are seen as an undeniable authority, everything shifts. Your words carry automatic weight. Your advice is accepted without resistance. Your presence alone commands respect and influence. Authority is the shortcut to trust. Instead of constantly proving yourself, you become a voice that people instinctively rely on. Consider the way a doctor's words carry more weight in a medical discussion, or how a well-known expert's advice is taken more seriously than a random opinion. The difference is perceived authority, the silent force that makes people assume your insights are valuable before you even begin speaking. The question is, how do you create this level of authority for yourself? The 3 pillars of authority. How to become the go-to voice in any space. Authority is not built overnight, but it can be engineered with precision. The most influential figures don't wait for the world to grant them authority. They actively create it through a combination of positioning, demonstration, and consistency. There are 3 essential pillars that determine how people perceive your authority. Number 1. Positional authority, the power of owning your space. People trust those who appear to own their domain with confidence. If you sound uncertain about where you stand or constantly downplay your expertise, others will instinctively view you as less authoritative. Positional authority is about establishing yourself as a leader in your field, regardless of titles or credentials. The key is clarity and conviction. Leaders don't just offer opinions. They stand firmly behind what they say. Instead of presenting ideas as mere possibilities, they speak with certainty, making it clear that their insights are the result of deep understanding and experience. If you want to strengthen your positional authority, define your area of expertise with absolute clarity. Avoid vague descriptions like, "I work in marketing," or "I help businesses grow." Instead, be specific. "I specialize in high-conversion storytelling that turns casual readers into loyal customers." Develop a signature perspective. The most authoritative voices don't just repeat common ideas. They introduce unique, well-founded perspectives that make people think differently. Own your knowledge without over-explaining. Many people weaken their authority by constantly justifying themselves. Instead of saying, "I've been in this industry for years, so I think this might work," say, "This is the approach that produces the best results." 2. Demonstrated authority, proof that commands respect. It's not enough to say you're an expert. You must demonstrate it in a way that removes all doubt. Demonstrated authority is about proving your credibility through experience, results, and undeniable value. People trust what they can see, hear, and verify. This is why the most authoritative figures don't just talk about their expertise. They showcase it through real-world proof. If you consistently provide valuable insights, share case studies, tell compelling success stories, and present data-backed results, people will naturally view you as a leader in your space. To strengthen your demonstrated authority, use concrete examples. Instead of saying, "I know how to increase engagement," say, "Here's how I helped a client boost engagement by 300% in 60 days." Share your insights publicly. The more you put your expertise on display, through writing, speaking, or content creation, the more people perceive you as a leading voice in your field. Leverage social proof. Testimonials, media features, and third-party validation, such as collaborations with respected names, instantly elevate your authority. Third, consistency authority, the trust built over time. Authority is not a one-time achievement. It is a continuous process. The strongest leaders maintain their influence through consistency. They don't show up sporadically or change their message every few weeks. Instead, they create a long-term presence that solidifies their credibility. Consistency builds predictability, and predictability builds trust. When people know what to expect from you and you consistently deliver, they begin to see you as a reliable source of truth. To strengthen your consistency authority, stay visible and active. The more people see you consistently providing value, the more they perceive you as a respected voice. Align your actions with your words. Authority crumbles if there is a disconnect between what you say and what you do. The strongest influencers practice what they preach. Commit to long-term engagement. Whether it's through content, leadership, or thought leadership, the longer you stay present and valuable, the stronger your authority becomes. Why authority creates effortless influence. The moment people see you as the trusted authority in your space, persuasion becomes effortless. You no longer have to fight for attention or convince people to listen. They naturally seek out your insights. Your influence expands beyond direct interactions, reaching new audiences who recognize your expertise without needing an introduction. Authority is what separates those who chase influence from those who attract it effortlessly. It is the foundation that turns influence from a temporary advantage into a permanent asset. And when you position yourself as the go-to voice in any field, doors open, opportunities multiply, and your ability to impact others grows exponentially. Chapter 9. Building an unshakable personal brand. Becoming instantly recognizable and respected influence is fleeting without recognition, and recognition is impossible without a personal brand. The most powerful voices in any field from industry leaders to global icons, are not just heard once and forgotten. They are remembered, sought after, and continually referenced because they have crafted a clear and distinct personal brand that cements their authority. A personal brand is not a logo, a catchy tagline, or a well-designed website. It is the deep, lasting impression you leave on people. It is the reputation that precedes you, the way others describe you when you are not in the room, and the identity that makes you unmistakably valuable in your space. A well-crafted personal brand does more than just elevate your influence in the moment. It ensures that every interaction you have, every piece of content you create, and every audience you engage with contributes to a lasting legacy. Without a strong personal brand, even the most brilliant insights can go unnoticed, drowned in a sea of competing voices. But with a brand that is carefully designed and consistently reinforced, your influence becomes undeniable, expanding beyond direct interactions into a self-sustaining force that attracts opportunities, connections, and loyalty. The key to building an unshakable personal brand is not self-promotion, nor is it about manufacturing an image that does not align with who you truly are. The most respected and lasting personal brands are built on authenticity, clarity, and strategic visibility. Influence is strongest when people not only recognize your expertise, but also trust the person behind it. When your brand is aligned with your values, your expertise, and your unique perspective, it becomes a magnet that draws people in and keeps them engaged for the long term. Why personal branding is the key to influence that lasts. The world is filled with voices competing for attention, and in this environment, expertise alone is not enough. You may have deep knowledge, valuable insights, or years of experience, but if your presence is forgettable or inconsistent, your influence will struggle to gain momentum. Influence without a strong personal brand is fragile. It requires constant effort to maintain, and it can easily fade the moment you stop pushing forward. However, a carefully crafted personal brand transforms influence into something sustainable, recognizable, and magnetic. Consider the figures in your industry who command respect. They are not just known for what they do. They are known for who they are and how they present themselves. Their personal brand creates an automatic sense of authority, making their insights instantly valuable without the need for constant justification. The strength of their influence does not come from a single viral moment or a fleeting success. It is the result of consistent, strategic brand building over time. A personal brand is what makes people think of you first when they need an expert in your field. It is what makes others recommend you, seek out your insights, and feel a sense of trust even before they engage with you directly. Without it, your influence is unstable, reliant on external validation and temporary recognition. But with it, your voice becomes a force that resonates, lingers, and expands effortlessly. The question is not whether you need a personal brand. The question is how to construct one that is undeniably powerful, deeply authentic, and built to last. The 5 pillars of a powerful personal brand. A personal brand is not built by chance, nor is it simply a byproduct of success. The most influential individuals create their brands intentionally, strategically, and with a clear understanding of what makes them unique. The foundation of a truly unshakable personal brand rests on 5 essential pillars: clarity, visibility, differentiation, credibility, and consistency. These elements work together to create a memorable, respected, and influential presence that people trust and follow. 1. Clarity, the foundation of recognition. A brand that is unclear is a brand that is easily forgotten. Clarity is the cornerstone of an effective personal brand because it ensures that people immediately understand who you are, what you stand for, and why your voice matters. When your message is vague, scattered, or overly complicated, people struggle to connect with it. But when your brand is defined with precision and simplicity, it becomes instantly recognizable. The strongest personal brands can be summed up in a single compelling statement. A statement that makes it clear why someone should pay attention to you. If people cannot easily articulate what makes you valuable, your brand lacks clarity. This does not mean you need a rehearsed elevator pitch. Rather, you need a deep internal understanding of your core identity so that every piece of content, every introduction, and every interaction naturally reinforces your value. To strengthen your clarity, define your core identity with absolute precision. Ask yourself, what unique value do I bring to my industry? What am I known for? What problem do I solve? Your answer should be specific and powerful. Simplify your message. Complexity weakens recognition. The best personal brands communicate a strong, simple idea that resonates instantly. Ensure consistency across all touchpoints. Whether someone encounters you on social media, in an interview, or at a speaking event, your message should always reinforce the same clear identity. 2. Visibility, being present where it matters. A brand that is hidden is a brand that does not exist in the minds of others. You may have expertise, insights, and valuable perspectives, but if you are not consistently visible in the right spaces, your influence will struggle to grow. Visibility is about being strategically present, not just showing up anywhere, but ensuring you are in the spaces where your audience and industry leaders are paying attention. A personal brand is only powerful if it is seen, heard, and recognized repeatedly. The more consistently you show up in meaningful ways, the more your name becomes synonymous with your expertise. To strengthen your visibility, establish a strong digital presence. Your online platforms, whether a website, social media, or professional networks, should clearly showcase your brand identity and value. Engage in thought leadership. Writing for respected publications, appearing on industry podcasts, and speaking at events all position you as a credible, visible authority. Be active in your community. Whether through networking, collaborations, or direct engagement with your audience, consistent interaction builds familiarity and trust. 3. Differentiation, standing out in a crowded market. The world is full of noise. If your personal brand looks, sounds, and feels like everyone else's, you will struggle to be remembered. Differentiation is what makes you distinct, memorable, and irreplaceable. It is the reason people follow you instead of someone else in your industry. The strongest personal brands are not built on imitation. They are built on authenticity and uniqueness, a perspective, approach, or methodology that no one else offers in quite the same way. To strengthen your differentiation, emphasize your unique perspective. Your background, experiences, and insights give you a voice that is entirely your own. Lean into what makes your approach different. Avoid generic branding. If your messaging sounds like everyone else's, it will blend in. Find your own style, tone, and positioning. Own your niche. The more focused and specific your brand identity, the more easily people associate you with a clear area of expertise. A powerful personal brand does not happen by accident. It is the result of intentional positioning, consistent visibility, and a message that resonates deeply. In the next chapter, we will explore how to take your brand from merely recognizable to irresistibly magnetic, drawing people in, commanding respect, and amplifying your influence effortlessly. Chapter 10. The Psychology of Trust: How to Become Instantly Credible and Respected. Influence without trust is an illusion. You might have the loudest voice in the room, the most refined expertise, or the sharpest insights, but if people do not trust you, none of it will matter. Trust is the currency of influence, and credibility is the foundation upon which trust is built. Without credibility, your words are just noise. With it, your voice becomes a powerful force that moves people to action. Trust is not something that is granted freely. It is earned, reinforced, and protected. The most influential people in any field are those who have meticulously built an image of reliability, competence, and integrity. They are the ones whose words carry weight, whose advice is followed without hesitation, and whose reputations remain intact even in the face of challenges. Their influence does not waver because they have established a psychological bond of trust with their audience, one that makes people feel secure in their knowledge, expertise, and intentions. But what is trust really? It is more than just a vague sense of reliability. Trust is a psychological state in which people believe that you are competent, honest, and aligned with their best interests. It is the silent agreement that says, "I believe in you. I believe that what you say is true, that you act with integrity, and that following your guidance will lead to a positive outcome." Without this psychological contract, influence is impossible to sustain. So how do you establish trust in a world where skepticism is high, attention spans are short, and people are constantly bombarded with conflicting information? The answer lies in a deliberate, strategic approach to credibility, one that is rooted in psychological principles and reinforced through consistent action. The 3 pillars of trust, the science of credibility. Trust is not built randomly. It follows a predictable pattern, one that is deeply rooted in human psychology. The most credible and influential people, whether in business, leadership, or public speaking, all excel in 3 fundamental areas: competence, integrity, and relatability. These 3 pillars form the backbone of trust, and if you master them, you will find that your influence becomes not only stronger, but also effortless. 1. Competence, becoming the undeniable authority. People only trust those they believe to be capable, knowledgeable, and skilled in their domain. Competence is the first and most essential component of credibility. No matter how likable or relatable you are, if people do not see you as highly competent, they will not fully trust your influence. This is why some of the most charismatic individuals fail to build long-term credibility, because they do not back up their charm with real, demonstrable expertise. But competence is not just about having knowledge. It is about showing that you have it. The way you communicate your expertise, the depth of your insights, and the confidence with which you present information all contribute to how competent people perceive you to be. You do not need to know everything, but you do need to own your subject matter, refine your skills continuously, and position yourself as an undisputed expert in your field. To strengthen your perceived competence, master your subject matter. Be obsessively dedicated to understanding and refining your knowledge. The most trusted experts are those who never stop learning. Demonstrate expertise consistently. Write, speak, and engage in ways that reinforce your authority. Thought leadership is not about bragging. It is about sharing valuable insights that prove your knowledge. Communicate with clarity and confidence. The way you present information shapes how competent people perceive you to be. Speak with certainty, structure your ideas clearly, and avoid hesitation. Competence alone, however, is not enough. Many brilliant minds are overlooked because they fail to build the second pillar of trust: integrity. 2. Integrity, the non-negotiable core of influence. Integrity is what makes people believe in you, not just your knowledge. It is the quality that ensures your influence is ethical, reliable, and unshakable over time. You might be the most competent person in your industry, but if people do not trust your intentions, your influence will always be limited. Integrity means being consistent, honest, and transparent in everything you do. It means aligning your words with your actions, standing by your values, and ensuring that your influence is used for the right reasons. Many people damage their credibility by making exaggerated claims, bending the truth, or being inconsistent in their messaging. The moment people sense even a small lack of integrity, trust is broken and influence is lost. To strengthen your integrity, be honest, even when it is inconvenient. People respect leaders who tell the truth, even when it is difficult. Do not make promises you cannot keep or claim expertise you do not have. Show consistency between your words and actions. Say what you mean and mean what you say. If people see discrepancies between your public persona and your real-life behavior, trust erodes. Admit mistakes and take responsibility. No one is perfect, and pretending to be flawless actually weakens credibility. When you make a mistake, own it, learn from it, and move forward with transparency. Integrity is the glue that holds credibility together, but competence and integrity alone still lack one final element: relatability. 3. Relatability, the emotional connection that drives influence. Trust is not just logical, it is emotional. People are far more likely to trust and follow someone they connect with on a human level. If you appear distant, inaccessible, or overly formal, your influence will feel impersonal. But when people feel that you understand them, share their struggles, and genuinely care about their concerns, trust becomes automatic. Relatability does not mean trying to please everyone or lowering your standards. It means showing authenticity, empathy, and human connection in a way that makes people feel safe in your presence. The most influential leaders in history were not just respected for their competence, they were loved for their ability to connect with people on a personal level. To strengthen your relatability, be authentic in your communication. Do not try to be a polished version of yourself that feels unnatural. Speak from the heart, share personal experiences, and allow people to see your real personality. Listen more than you speak. Influence is not just about broadcasting your message. It is about understanding your audience's needs, fears, and aspirations. Show genuine interest in others, and they will naturally trust you. Be accessible and responsive. Answer questions, engage in meaningful conversations, and make yourself available in a way that reinforces your presence as a real, approachable person. Trust is the bridge between influence and action. When competence, integrity, and relatability come together, trust becomes unshakable. The strongest influencers in history, whether in business, politics, or social movements, have all mastered this formula. They were not just knowledgeable, they were trusted. They were not just ethical, they were relatable. And as a result, their words did not just inspire people, they moved people to action. Chapter 11. Amplifying Trust at Scale. How to expand your influence. Beyond personal interactions. Trust is the bedrock of influence, but in today's world, influence is not just about one-on-one relationships. It is about reaching larger audiences, shaping public perception, and ensuring that your credibility extends beyond personal conversations into mass communication and brand positioning. True influence is scalable. It does not rely solely on personal interactions, but leverages systems, platforms, and strategies that magnify your presence and make your trustworthiness evident, even to people who have never met you directly. In an era where digital platforms, media appearances, and large-scale communication play an increasingly dominant role, trust must be built at scale. The world's most influential figures, leaders, entrepreneurs, industry experts, and public speakers, do not just influence small groups. They create ripple effects that extend far beyond their immediate circle, affecting industries, communities, and even entire cultures. The key to this level of influence is understanding how to transfer trust from individual interactions into a broader, scalable framework that ensures your credibility and authority remain intact and reinforced, even as your audience grows. The challenge most people face is that trust building feels personal. It thrives in direct, human-to-human interactions, where body language, tone, and relationship dynamics can be felt in real time. But the real secret to mass influence is learning how to replicate those elements of trust building at scale, so that even those who have never spoken to you personally feel like they know you, believe in you, and trust your expertise. To achieve this, you need to master 3 key pillars of scaling trust: visibility, social proof, and narrative control. These principles are the foundation of how modern influence is built. Whether you are leading an industry, building a personal brand, or trying to establish yourself as a trusted authority in your field. Pillar 1. Visibility, making sure you are seen in the right places. The first step in amplifying trust is ensuring that your presence is widespread and recognizable. People trust what they see repeatedly. This is a fundamental principle of psychology known as the mere exposure effect. The more often people encounter your name, your ideas, and your insights, the more likely they are to trust your authority and believe in your credibility. This is why some of the most well-known figures in business, media, and leadership seem to be everywhere. Their presence is carefully cultivated so that no matter where people look, they are reminded of their expertise. But visibility is not just about being everywhere. It is about being strategically placed where trust is naturally high. Not all forms of exposure build credibility. In fact, being visible in the wrong spaces can weaken your influence. The key is to identify platforms, events, and networks where your audience already associates credibility with the people who appear there. To maximize your visibility, leverage established media platforms. Appearing in respected publications, podcasts, and TV segments instantly borrows trust from those platforms, positioning you as a credible figure. Participate in thought leadership conversations. Engaging in public discussions, panels, and industry events ensures that your expertise is recognized within influential circles. Dominate digital spaces with consistent content, whether through articles, videos, interviews, or social media. Being consistently present reinforces your authority and keeps you top of mind. The goal is not just to be seen, but to be seen in a way that reinforces credibility. Every touchpoint should strengthen, not dilute, your reputation as a trusted authority. Pillar 2. Social proof, the psychology of borrowed trust. Trust does not exist in isolation. People are wired to look to others for cues on who is trustworthy and credible. This is why social proof, the validation from peers, experts, and communities, is one of the most powerful tools in scaling influence. When people see others trusting you, they naturally assume you are worth trusting too. Social proof comes in many forms, but the most effective include testimonials and endorsements. Having well-respected figures, past clients, or well-known professionals publicly vouch for you immediately elevates your credibility. Media features and recognition. Being quoted, interviewed, or featured in authoritative sources lends third-party validation that boosts trust. Engaged communities and followers. The more active and engaged your audience is, the more newcomers perceive you as a respected and influential figure. But social proof is not just about numbers. It is about who vouches for you. A single endorsement from a well-respected leader can be far more powerful than thousands of generic testimonials. The key is to align yourself with people, brands, and platforms that already carry trust, and borrow that trust strategically. Pillar 3. Narrative control, owning the story. People associate with your name. The most influential people do not just let their reputation happen, they actively shape and control the narrative surrounding them. Influence at scale requires that people do not just know who you are, but also know exactly what you stand for. If you do not control your narrative, others will define it for you, and that is dangerous. Your narrative is the mental shortcut people use to describe you. When someone hears your name, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Is it expertise? Innovation? A groundbreaking idea? A clear message that people instantly recognize and trust? Or is it vague, scattered, or inconsistent? To control your narrative, define your core message and stick to it. Be known for something specific and unmistakable. The best influencers have one clear theme that ties everything they do together. Address misconceptions directly. If misinformation or doubts arise, tackle them head-on before they grow into damaging narratives. Create and spread your own content. Do not rely on others to tell your story. Actively publish, speak, and engage in ways that reinforce your credibility. Influence is not just about being recognized. It is about being remembered in the right way. The more control you have over your narrative, the stronger and more consistent your influence becomes. Scaling trust is the gateway to unstoppable influence. When visibility, social proof, and narrative control come together, influence becomes exponential. You are no longer just trusted by those who know you personally. You become trusted at scale, across industries, audiences, and platforms. Your credibility no longer depends on individual conversations, but is reinforced by the ecosystem you build around yourself. The most powerful influencers have mastered this formula. They show up in the right places, they leverage the trust of others, and they control how their story is told. As a result, they do not just influence people one at a time. They create a wave of credibility that spreads effortlessly, naturally, and permanently. Chapter 12. Sustaining long-term influence. How to stay relevant, respected, and trusted over time. Becoming influential is one thing. Staying influential is another. The world is littered with individuals who once held enormous credibility, only to watch their influence fade, weaken, or collapse entirely. In contrast, the most powerful and enduring figures, those whose impact is felt for decades, even centuries, understand that influence is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing process. The key to staying relevant is not just about gaining attention or recognition in the present, but about consistently reinforcing your authority, trustworthiness, and value over time. Influence does not disappear overnight. It erodes through neglect, inconsistency, or failing to adapt to a changing landscape. Many once powerful leaders, speakers, and business figures lost their authority because they became complacent. They assumed that the credibility they had built would sustain itself. But influence is like a muscle. If you stop exercising it, it weakens. It requires constant reinforcement, adaptation, and a deep understanding of how trust evolves over time. The real test of influence is longevity. Short-term recognition is easy. Anyone can create a momentary spark. But lasting trust, sustained respect, and long-term credibility require strategic discipline, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to providing value. This is why some thought leaders and public figures continue to dominate their fields for decades, while others disappear into irrelevance. They understand that influence is not just about making an impact today. It is about ensuring that impact continues for years, even when circumstances change. So, how do you ensure that the influence you build today remains just as strong, if not stronger, years from now? The answer lies in mastering 4 critical principles that sustain long-term trust and influence: consistency, reinvention, relationship depth, and ethical leadership. These pillars form the foundation of enduring influence and ensure that your credibility does not just survive, but thrives in an ever-changing world. Pillar 1. Consistency, the silent force that reinforces trust over time. One of the biggest reasons people lose influence is inconsistency. Trust is built through repeated positive experiences, and if people cannot predict how you will act, what you stand for, or whether your advice will hold up over time, your credibility weakens. Consistency is not about being static. It is about ensuring that your core message, values, and expertise remain strong and reliable, even as you evolve. When people see that you consistently deliver value, remain true to your principles, and continue to be a reliable source of insight, they anchor their trust in you. This is why some of the most respected figures in history, whether in business, leadership, or entertainment, never struggle to maintain their influence. Their audience knows what to expect, trusts that they will continue to deliver, and sees them as an unshakable pillar of credibility. To maintain consistency, ensure your messaging remains clear and aligned over time. Sudden, drastic shifts in your opinions, branding, or values can confuse and alienate your audience. Show up regularly in the spaces where your audience engages. Whether through thought leadership, content creation, or industry involvement, remain an active presence. Deliver on your promises and maintain a high standard of quality. Your influence is only as strong as the last experience someone had with you. Every interaction should reinforce, not weaken, your credibility. Pillar 2. Reinvention, the art of staying fresh. Without losing credibility, while consistency is critical, it must be balanced with evolution. The world changes rapidly, and those who refuse to adapt become outdated and irrelevant. True influence requires a mastery of reinvention, the ability to grow, expand, and refine your expertise while maintaining the core credibility that people already trust. Some of the most respected and long-lasting figures in business, media, and thought leadership have remained relevant for decades because they knew how to evolve without losing trust. They did not cling to outdated models or resist innovation. Instead, they anticipated changes, embraced new ideas, and repositioned themselves as forward-thinking leaders. To master reinvention, stay informed about changes in your industry or area of influence. The most respected figures are those who predict and shape the future, rather than cling to the past. Update your skills, knowledge, and approach. If you are still relying on the same strategies you used a decade ago, you risk becoming irrelevant. Constant learning ensures your insights remain cutting edge. Evolve your messaging to stay aligned with new realities. The world moves fast. Your ability to adjust while remaining authentic is what keeps your audience engaged. Pillar 3. Relationship depth, building a legacy of meaningful influence. Long-term influence is not built on transactional relationships. It is built on deep, meaningful connections with people who respect, trust, and advocate for you over time. Many influencers lose credibility because they focus too much on growing their audience rather than deepening their existing relationships. The truth is, influence is far more about quality than quantity. A smaller, highly engaged, and deeply loyal audience is far more powerful than a large but detached following. Influence that stands the test of time is built one relationship at a time. The people you invest in today, whether they are colleagues, clients, readers, or followers, become the foundation of your long-term reputation. If people feel genuinely connected to you, they stand by you through challenges, support your ideas, and become long-term advocates. To build deep, lasting influence, engage with your audience on a personal level, respond to messages, acknowledge contributions, and show appreciation for those who support you. Prioritize authenticity over scale. True influence is not about impressing millions. It is about deeply impacting the right people. Cultivate relationships with other credible leaders. Your influence is strengthened by the company you keep. Align yourself with people who share your values and elevate your credibility. Pillar 4. Ethical leadership, the ultimate foundation of long-term influence. Influence that lasts is built on integrity, ethics, and a genuine commitment to creating positive impact. The world is full of figures who gained influence through manipulation, deception, or shortcuts, only to watch their credibility crumble when the truth emerged. The most powerful and enduring influencers understand that their legacy is shaped by their ethics, not just their success. Ethical leadership is not just about avoiding scandals or wrongdoing. It is about actively using influence responsibly and constructively. People are drawn to leaders who operate with transparency, fairness, and a commitment to creating real value rather than self-serving agendas. To maintain ethical influence, always prioritize long-term reputation over short-term gains. A quick win that compromises integrity is never worth it. Be transparent and accountable. If you make a mistake, own it, correct it, and move forward with honesty. Use your influence for good. The most respected leaders are those who contribute positively to the people and industries they serve. Long-term influence is not given. It is earned every day. The most influential people in history did not remain relevant by chance. They understood that influence is a lifelong journey, one that requires constant reinforcement, evolution, and a deep commitment to maintaining trust at all costs. The moment you take influence for granted is the moment it begins to slip away. Chapter 13. From Influence to Legacy: How to Shape the Future. Instead of just reacting to it, true influence is not just about making an impact in the present. It is about shaping the future. While many people chase temporary recognition, momentary success, or short-lived authority, those who are truly unstoppable recognize that influence should outlast them. They do not just react to the world around them, they reshape it, leaving behind ideas, movements, and legacies that continue to impact others long after they are gone. The final, ultimate stage of influence is legacy influence, the ability to instill ideas, values, and transformations so deeply into the world that they continue without your direct presence. This is the level where great leaders, visionaries, and changemakers operate. They do not just seek influence for personal gain or fleeting relevance. They build systems, ideas, and contributions that last for generations. Consider the most impactful figures in history, whether in business, leadership, thought leadership, or social movements. Their influence did not die with them. It expanded, strengthened, and became an unshakable foundation that others continued to build upon. This is because they mastered the art of long-term influence. They were not content with being known. They were determined to leave a mark that could never be erased. So, how do you elevate your influence from something temporary to something permanent, powerful, and unshakable? The key is mastering three final principles that define legacy influence: teaching, systematization, and succession planning. These pillars ensure that your impact does not just reach people. It transforms them, empowers them, and equips them to carry your influence forward long after your direct involvement ends. Pillar 1. Teaching, transferring influence through knowledge and wisdom. The most powerful influencers do not just accumulate knowledge, they share it, teach it, and pass it on in ways that empower others. Influence that is confined to a single person is limited. Influence that is shared becomes unstoppable. Teaching is the most effective way to amplify and preserve your influence over time. When you equip others with your knowledge, they become carriers of your message, spreading your influence far beyond your direct reach. Some of the greatest leaders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders understood that their power was not in hoarding information, but in spreading it strategically. But effective teaching is not just about sharing information, it is about creating transformation. Many people make the mistake of simply telling others what they know. But true legacy building happens when you equip people with the tools, perspectives, and skills they need to continue the journey on their own. The most powerful teachers do not just give answers, they train others to think, act, and lead with the same level of influence they themselves possess. To master the art of teaching as a tool for legacy influence, create systems that share your expertise, whether through books, courses, mentorship programs, or online content. Ensure that your knowledge is available beyond just personal conversations. Teach in a way that transforms, not just informs. People do not remember information. They remember experiences, breakthroughs, and life-changing insights. Make your teaching deeply impactful. Pass down wisdom, not just tactics. Strategies change over time, but principles and wisdom endure. Teach people the deeper lessons behind success, influence, and leadership, so they can adapt them to any era. When you teach others to be influential, your own influence multiplies exponentially. The greatest leaders do not just build their own success, they create an army of others who carry their message forward. Pillar 2. Systematization. Building a structure that preserves and scales influence. Legacy influence is not built on one-time efforts. It is built on systems that ensure your impact continues even in your absence. If your influence is solely dependent on you showing up, speaking, or leading in real time, then the moment you step away, your impact diminishes. This is why the most long-lasting and influential people focus on creating structures that sustain their influence without their direct involvement. Think of some of the most enduring movements, companies, and ideas. They did not collapse when the original influencer stepped away. Instead, they continued growing, evolving, and strengthening because they were built on systems that made them self-sustaining. To build systems that preserve and scale influence, develop frameworks that others can follow. Whether through books, methodologies, or structured programs, codify your knowledge so it can be applied long after you are gone. Ensure your message is scalable. Influence that requires personal, one-on-one time is limited. Influence that can be distributed through systems, automation, and replication is limitless. Delegate and empower others. The greatest influencers do not just carry the weight of their influence alone. They create teams, communities, and networks that ensure their message continues. When influence is systematized, it becomes unstoppable. It no longer relies on a single person. It becomes a movement, a methodology, a force of change that continues regardless of individual presence. Pillar 3. Succession planning, ensuring your influence continues for generations. The final and most overlooked aspect of legacy influence is succession planning, identifying, mentoring, and equipping the next generation of leaders who will carry forward your impact. The strongest influencers do not just focus on their own journey. They actively cultivate and prepare others to take the lead when the time comes. Many of the most influential figures in history have maintained unshakable legacies because they did not just operate in isolation. They built generations of successors who ensured that their message, values, and influence continued long after their direct involvement ended. To create a powerful succession plan, identify and mentor rising leaders. Influence is not about you alone. It is about who you equip to continue the work after you. Pass down authority, not just ideas. Teaching is valuable, but